Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. Hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I'm not sure what you did, if anything, for the holiday, but whatever you chose to do, I hope you did it safely. I hope you had a nice time. And now, I assume a lot of us are celebrating the old Black Friday, which, by the way, is a very strange holiday to celebrate this year because most of these deals have been available for days. It hasn't really been a one-day kind of thing. And obviously, everyone's not exactly rushing out to the stores to buy these sort of things. So if you're celebrating, well, you've probably already bought something anyway. Here, let's get to it. This press conference from yesterday is going to be talked about a lot, was talked about a lot even on Thanksgiving. The President of the United States had some words for the media, which is something he's had a lot of words for throughout the administration. And you and I can decide who's right and who's wrong in all this. I thought it was interesting, though, and you'll hear it at the tail end of the audio clip I have, that he says don't ever talk to a president, not just himself. He was trying to talk to one of the reporters about the way in which a lot of this stuff has been conducted. And the message was don't talk to anybody who's in the office of president the way that this set of media continues to talk to him. Let's hear it. Come on.
And
there it is.
It was, I don't even like to use, it was a rigged election.
But, sir, just to be clear, if the Electoral College votes for Joe Biden, will you concede?
Well, if they do, they made a mistake because this election was a fraud. Just so you understand, this election was a fraud. I mean, they have Biden beating Obama on Obama's vote in areas that mattered in terms of the election, in swing states. And yet he's losing to Obama all over the place. But he's beating Obama in swing states, which are the states that mattered for purposes of the election. So, no, I can't say that at all. I think it's a possibility. They're trying to look between you people. Don't talk to me that way. You're just a lightweight. Don't talk to me that way. I'm the president of the United States. Don't ever talk to the president that way. All right, I'm going to go with another question. Go ahead.
So if the electoral.
I got to stop it for a second. Look, I don't care if you hate the guy or you like the guy. You're going to miss this. I'm going to miss this. We're all going to miss this. And again, you can hate it. You can say that it's the worst thing you've ever heard anyone in the office of president do, the way he conducts himself very differently than other presidents in the past have done. You're still going to miss it. The press conferences that are conducted with the president of the United States and what seems to be several different levels of just animosity from the press. These things are going to be things that we all wish existed. But let's go ahead. This is the question, the other question that matters, I guess, to a lot of people.
College does elect President-elect Joe Biden. Are you not going to leave this building?
Just so you, certainly I will. Certainly I will. And you know that. But I think that there will be a lot of things happening between now and the 20th of January. A lot of things.
Yeah, a lot of things are going to be happening between now and... it is funny. I did see at least one take, someone actually trying to say that he insinuated he wasn't going to leave the White House, even in that conversation, that he obviously thinks that's a ridiculous point. He thinks that, I don't know why we want to invent these versions of truths that make President Trump look even crazier than at times he maybe behaves a little bit that road. It each his own. You can feel whatever way you want about the current president of the United States, about Joe Biden, who's coming in. By the way, Joe Biden had a message on Twitter, on social media as well, about the holiday and how they're spending it differently, how so many people are going to be spending it differently. So if you want that message instead, that's fine. That's out there as well, and maybe I'll play it a little bit later on. But the president of the United States had a lot to say, and people are going to keep talking. I don't care. I honestly, at this point, I just want to reiterate this again. I know you're going to miss these. I know that at some point down the road, you're going to wish, and, Donald Trump's still going to be a person, so he's still probably going to be talking, and maybe news will still follow him around because that is what the last 4 years have been. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful, I guess, a day after Thanksgiving that the President of the United States has given us so many things via these sound bites. All right, let's go on to something else. This is actually kind of interesting to me. The late Alex Trebek records these episodes of Jeopardy before, obviously, the date they air. And apparently he recorded one for a Thanksgiving day, and he had a Thanksgiving message. So this is the late Alex Trebek speaking into the camera on a episode of Jeopardy that was to air yesterday. And here, just listen to this. It's very interesting to hear from Alex Trebek, obviously, after he's already passed away.
Johnny Gilbert. Happy Thanksgiving, ladies and gentlemen. You know, in spite of what America and the rest of the world is experiencing right now, there are many reasons to be thankful. There are more and more people extending helpful hands to do a kindness to their neighbors, and that's a good thing. Keep the faith. We're going to get through all of this, and we will be a better society because of it.
I think that's a tremendous message. I think it's really interesting to hear from someone, you know, obviously as well known, as well regarded as Alex Trebek, and also a person who unfortunately lost the fight with cancer very recently. But I have no problem with the things that he said. I think they're wonderful, and I think it is true. I think the other thing that we all need to realize, a day after Thanksgiving, a day that was covered, and thank God that's going to be over too, actually. Thank God we're not going to debate anymore whether or not you should spend, although actually I guess Christmas is coming up, and so there's going to be a lot of coverage of that. I did see that there's several politicians who urged people to stay home and then broke the rules. Denver would be another example, someone that did that. I don't understand that, truthfully. If you're a politician, if you're a person who is at the front of any sort of conversation, don't you have to live up to it? Isn't that part of the rule? And I know I'm being an idiot right now, and a lot of people just yelled at the radio. No, the politicians often don't follow the advice that they give. They often just break those rules. But how can you keep going? How can Pelosi get a salon hairdo and then get caught doing it, and then more politicians just keep saying and doing things that are totally opposed to each other? Like, everybody stay home, you got to stay, I'm going to hop on a flight and go somewhere, though. I don't know when everyone will get the message that that's a bad idea. But we'll see. As Christmas is coming, we'll have more and more conversations, more information. I mean, if we dive into coronavirus for just a second, day after Thanksgiving, I kind of don't want to, but I guess I should. We had a lot of cases again another day, over 100,000 cases in the United States, which we've had a trend now for several days of that. There may have been as many as 53 million coronavirus cases in the U.S. This is just by the end of September, according to a new estimate from the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. This is nearly 8 times as many cases as been reported already. This is because there's an assumption, and it's an assumption that we've proven correct time and again, that there are more and more asymptomatic cases than many of us know about. And that, you know, for the most part, and I'm just saying true things, by the way, right now. I don't want to say things to be controversial. These are just true things. For the most part, people who've lost their lives to coronavirus are people in at-risk groups, people with pre-existing conditions, or people that are elderly. For the most part, young people, and that's kids as much as it is people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, have all been okay. I mean, there are exceptions to those rules, of course, but for the most part, this is and has been proven out to be. And actually, I saw this stat, and this stat really intrigued me a lot. So we'll take a break in just a second, but I want to tell you this. Did you know that this year, more children, more kids in the lowest age brackets for this sort of thing, have lost their lives to the flu than to coronavirus? I did not know that. I saw this in a Chicago Tribune article just yesterday. This year, more children have lost their lives to the flu. And I'm not comparing the two the way that so many did. I'm not trying to tell you that means the flu and COVID-19 are the same, because they're not. But it is true. And as we debated for, weeks, maybe months, whether or not we should celebrate Thanksgiving, and we're going to do it all over again for the next few weeks as far as Christmas is concerned and everything else is concerned that's coming up, you should know, and we should all be aware, that there are some numbers that back up some of the ways in which people behave because they're not in the at-risk groups. That's just a fact. I'm just giving you facts. Greg Collins in for Chad Benson. Quick break. A lot more coming up.
Don't let the Washington Beltway strangle you. This is where the exhausted majority comes to refuel, realign, and reevaluate. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins, filling in. If you got to go after somebody on social media for the show today, make sure it's me and not Chad. He'll be back on Monday. I saw a lot of different things in the news. Of course, obviously, the Supreme Court decision about New York, about churches in New York, is a big deal. That came out on Wednesday night or early Thursday morning. The deciding vote was cast by Amy Coney Barrett, who a lot of people obviously discussed quite a bit, being, another conservative. And this may be what I think gets us into the point where with Biden becoming the new president in the next couple months, he may very much try to pack the court. But this decision was specific to churches. It is only a temporary solution to the potential problem. It's not necessarily a long-term decision from what I've seen, but it is going to allow the churches who brought this suit against New York the ability to conduct larger services because the restrictions were so tight in New York City for these sort of things, even tighter than, say, going to the grocery store or anything else that some people would feel is essential. Church to some is as essential as any of those other things. And that was really the argument itself, is that hundreds of people in the city or the state of New York could wind up in a place at the same time, say shopping for groceries, and yet you couldn't have more than 10 to 25 occupants in a religious institution. That just seemed to be unfair, and oddly so. And so that's the decision. 5-4 the Supreme Court, saying that it needed to be reconsidered, and that for the time being, they would absolutely not have to follow those guidelines. I don't know if this is the beginning to a lot of this sort of thing. I don't know if we're going to see a lot more lawsuits being targeting a lot of the different decision-making, and certainly I imagine that there might be more like this from the religious standpoint. But, and I don't disagree with any of this. To be honest with you, I just don't. And I'm worried a little bit as I say that, because I realize that, and I want to keep reiterating this as many times as I can whenever I get into topics like this, I don't disregard COVID-19. I don't think that it's something we shouldn't worry about. And I want to make sure that I say that, because so many times if you say anything else, people will hear two sentences when you only speak one. So I'm going to speak both. I don't think COVID-19 is something we can ignore. However, I think for people who believe in certain religions, I myself happen to be a Catholic, that you do see that as an essential part of your life. Essential part. I mean, a lot of people saw celebrating Thanksgiving with family as essential. That's true. You saw there was a lot of travel, and a lot of people upset about the amount of travel here in America for the holiday that is Thanksgiving. And yet a lot of people felt that was a need thing, not a want, not a, I can decide to do this or not do it this year. A lot of people obviously demonstrated by the fact that they all went to see family. And the same is true for church. My grandmother is someone that I think about a lot in these sort of situations. She's getting up there in age. She's had a lot of health issues in the last couple of years, and yet there's something that's tremendously important to her, and it's to practice her faith. And I think for the most part, she's actually been doing that online. And she would love to be able to do it in church. And that's the kind of thing that if you talk to her for a few minutes, you start to get a different perspective on people that are maybe at risk, people that are in certain times in their life, people that are, I don't know a better way to say it, but my grandmother is older, and she feels that there are things worth risk. And a lot of us, obviously, in the family, sometimes encourage grandma to be a little bit safer, and she'll just tell you that there's things that are important to her, and seeing family was also important to her. So she did do, I think, a little bit during Thanksgiving. I wasn't able to get out there, but, it's the kind of thing that we all have to make those decisions. All right, let's move on. Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson has COVID-19. There's an outbreak, and he's been added to the list. The game versus the Steelers is in peril. It's been a rough week for COVID-19, and it got worse yesterday. Rough week for COVID-19 in the NFL, I should say. I don't know if it's been a rough week for just the virus. Star quarterback Lamar Jackson tested positive for the novel coronavirus. This is according to the NFL Network, possibly forcing the Ravens-Steelers game set for Sunday after originally being slated for Thanksgiving to be postponed for a second time. He is one of a few different players who's obviously been put on the protocol. There's 4 players, some staff members so far. The head coach of the Ravens, John Harbaugh, said that he, believes that everything's been safe for the most part. He believes in he understands the safety concerns, but if everyone's capable of playing, I think they still want to suit up and play. I am going to be very intrigued watching a lot of the different sports that are going to start up, not just the NFL and how they try to complete their season as we're seeing more and more cases of coronavirus throughout the country, but things like college basketball. I'm going to be very intrigued to see how it handles, how that league, how those individuals handle that process. Hopefully their bubble concept works. I know that this is college kids we're talking about, so obviously there's been a lot of struggle with colleges containing the virus, but that's something that you just have to try to succeed as much as you can, hope for the best, and then when this sort of thing happens. It's been interesting that most of the athletes who have gotten COVID-19 have been fine. There are very few stories of athletes having serious illness. There are a couple. There's a Red Sox pitcher that comes to mind, but there are a few. But for the most part, this has been a fairly easy thing for a professional athlete, someone in top physical conditioning, you'd assume, to be okay. One last story I have here in the world of sports that I thought was interesting. Mike Tyson is going to be in a fight. They're going to be fighting him and Roy Jones Jr. tomorrow. And Mike celebrated the holiday by eating a giant head that looked like Roy Jones Jr. I don't know if you saw this on social media. You should check it out. We can share it. He served his gathering the head of Roy Jones Jr. I mean, Mike Tyson is a guy that we also need. You need Trump to be doing press conferences at some time to add a little bit of extra spice to your life. And you also need Mike Tyson to be fighting someone and doing stuff like this. He said he likes ears, by the way, when he was joking with media. This is him making fun of Evander Holyfield and the fact that he bit off the guy's ear. He said, tastes real good, tastes so much better than Evander's. This is Mike Tyson on Thanksgiving eating a food product that looks like the head of the guy he's going to fight tomorrow. I mean, come on. The world is giving us some interesting stuff, and this is definitely an interesting thing. I don't know if you're part of that gathering, if you start to think maybe this is weird. I imagine everybody there outside of Mike was like, I'd rather just eat regular-looking food. I don't want to eat something that looks like, but come on. At the same time, it's pretty funny. In my opinion, it's funny anyway, but maybe that shows my sense of humor is a little bit dark. But Mike Tyson had the head of Roy Jones Jr. and joked about eating the ears. We've come a long way. One last topic for you real quick. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is getting a lot of hate on social media. I don't know if you saw that. I'll cover that actually when we get back. But the Thanksgiving Day Parade, do you think it was the same or was it a little weird this year? More Chad Benson Show in a bit.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins, filling in for the day. Did you watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade? How did you feel about it? Did you enjoy it? Did you think it was pretty good? A lot of people did not. The reason why is, I guess, the one you'd expect. It was different this year. We should have a T-shirt. 2020, it was different this year. That'll apply to anything and everything that exists in this year. It was different. There was a lot less of the typical things that you see, a lot of contained versions of performances. The Rockettes didn't kick the way that they legendarily kick, et cetera, et cetera. But this is one of the reactions, one of the many reactions on social media that's being covered today. Someone said that the broadcast was absolute garbage on Twitter, I guess is what you can expect for 2020. And this is one of my favorite ones, a reaction on social media. These performers are waving off these floats as if there's a physical audience there that's not there. This is why I have trust issues. Who are you waving at? And that is true. And I think the same has been kind of weird about, say, an award show and watching someone give a speech and pretend there's a whole audience when there's not really an audience, or even honestly some sporting events when there's no audience in the stands and trying to figure out or deal with it like it's what it should be. But I was just talking to my producer, Phil, for a second off the air, and he said what a lot of people, I think, said, why do it? And I do have that question, too. Why do a parade if you're not going to do it well? And actually, this was my reaction, if you remember back when Saturday Night Live did their first of their quarantine episodes where everybody was just shooting their own video at home. And the episode was not that Saturday Night Live is usually the funniest show on television, but it was less amusing than normal. And like, why do it? Honestly, is there a value in putting something out that's not necessarily the professional level product that we've come to expect from these types of things. And if you can't, for whatever reason, get it done the way you're used to doing it, maybe skip it. Maybe altogether, just, repackage last year so we can you remember what it was like last year around this time and all the things that we didn't expect to be coming down the pipeline? I mean, it would have been interesting to watch everyone celebrating a year ago today during the Thanksgiving Day parade and just remembering. This even happens to me. It's weird to admit that I watched the show as a dovetail off of this topic, but during the Masked Singer, if you've watched the Masked Singer at all, a lot of that audience reaction is canned from previous seasons. It's not accurate in current audiences watching the show, and it's really weird to see the way in which everybody's just kind of hanging out maskless and having a good time at a TV show, and then realizing that that's all people who had no idea what was coming down the pipeline. And actually, one other quick thing, and this is not what I intend to get to. I have some more audio to play of the president from his press conference the other day. But I've been doing a thing on my other radio show, on the Craig Collins Show, about how I just think it's crazy that some stories are published this year. Like, we could hang on to some things, some negative news that we don't really need. And case in point was this headline I saw: death by shark is at an all-time high in Australia right now. This is a real headline, a real news organization. Death by shark at an all-time high in Australia. What's happening? ? And then it dives into it. We could wait. On stuff like that, you can wait. The murder hornet, which wound up not being, I guess, as big of a deal as some might have been afraid it was going to be, was one of those other stories that I'm like, I don't need to know about that. Skip that for this year. But all right, let's get back to the president. He gave a press conference yesterday during Thanksgiving, of course, and he said some things that made people mad, some things that made other people very happy. Let's hear one of those things.
Yes, Mr. President. If Joe Biden takes over the White House on January 21st, will you announce a candidacy for 2024?
Well, no, I don't want to talk about 2024 yet.
Will you
because this is far
if and when
from being. Look. I and the people that work in this are very professional, and all of this stuff is coming. A lot of it came out. If you look at the Philadelphia meeting, if you look at the Pennsylvania meeting yesterday, a lot of it came out. This has a long way to go.
I think it's very interesting that the press would want him to renounce his candidacy for 2024. What kind of a question is that? Let's be honest. And this is not necessarily if you're a Trump supporter or not. Why would any politician who was elected president of the United States not want to run 4 years later when you don't get real? Like, why not? I don't understand why he wouldn't want to run. I mean, he had a historic amount of votes for him. And I want to reiterate that for anyone that thinks that I'm wrong when I say that. Yes, Joe Biden beat him. Yes, Joe Biden had more votes than the president of the United States, unless, as you believe like the president does, that is rigged and fake, which a lot of people are starting to prove that it wasn't. And I'm not in the camp, at least now. I haven't seen enough proof to believe that the election was fraudulent. But even with the amount of votes that Biden got to defeat him, Trump got a historic amount of votes on his own. And so 4 years from now, when people might not vote by mail as much as they did this year, because things we assume 4 years from now are much safer and maybe mail-in balloting isn't leaned on as heavily. And I think that actually causes less of a turnout. I think more people voted in general because it was different to do it. Not that mail-in balloting isn't possible in other years. I just think a lot of people didn't do either. There are a whole lot of people that I think typically probably don't have the motivation to go out and vote, show up at a poll somewhere, and don't go through the process of doing the mail-in ballot. But this year they did. And so that's where you see the historic turnout. But why? Why be a press person now before you even swear the guy in, before Trump is even no longer our president and someone else has stepped in? Why to ask him to give up on 2024? We have no idea what it looks like 4 years from now. We have no idea what President Joe Biden does once he is the president. We have no idea how the economy looks. By the way, there's a deep dive into the economy, the economic impact of COVID-19 and how damaging it's been and how damaging it might continue to be, depending on what decisions are made and how, in truth, as we look back on some of this stuff. And again, this is sort of referencing some of the disparity between the seriousness of this illness, which is, again, just a fact for people in at-risk groups and people that are not in at-risk groups, but the amount of harm to the economy as a whole for people that, are being told to stay home, to not work, to do whatever, even though technically they're in the lower risk groups, is maybe more damaging than the damage coronavirus has had on our population, on our country. And that'll be something to debate for years to come, certainly for the next 4 years. And so 4 years from now, if some of the decisions made by the president look different in light of the amount of information we know, I don't know how he doesn't run, to be honest. And so to ask somebody, and I can't fathom the way they come up with these questions, to be honest, and the way that some people in media feel like this isn't proof that they're very, very biased. And actually, Lou Dobbs tried to take one of his own reporters to task for this very thing. And I'm not going to play all of the audio of it, but a Fox News reporter on the scene was recapping a lot of what happened as far as testimony goes for Trump's legal team and some of the ongoing legal battles. And Lou felt as though that reporter was being dismissive while giving this information to the people. So Lou said this.
You sound rather dismissive of the expert witnesses, including PsyOps, forensic computer experts that were testifying as to the irregularities and the anomalies of the election. In point of fact, it was an informational hearing, and you are, I'm sure, aware that a state judge has intervened to temporarily stop the certification of the vote in Pennsylvania as a result of claims by, amongst others, Congressman Mike Kelly and Sean Parnell, both Republicans, declaring in their lawsuit that the entire proceeding was unconstitutional. David Spahn, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. We'll be joined.
I love the 30-second, the 35-second taking the guy to task. And then thanks so much for being with us, by the way. Like, no more response from you. You're done. But there is a truth. And I know that there's been a lot of things thrown out as far as the court cases go. There's been a lot of things debunked and a lot of things that make it appear as though, none of the legal battles the president is trying to succeed at are going to work. And it does appear. And I know that the transition team has already started to cooperate with President-elect Joe Biden's staff. So it seems like all that stuff is going to happen. And yet the way we cover this in media is so intriguing to so many. All right. I have one other story here, and then I probably have to take a break. I think this story is very interesting, though, because what I have, and I'm not going to play it because it really is just shattering glass. I was thinking about whether or not this audio is necessary to set up this conversation with you. And it's not. It's just a woman who went berserk in a British supermarket on Wednesday, just smashing alcohol bottles. Out of all the things to break in a grocery store, too, by the way, that's the most expensive. She did $130,000 worth of damage, and she just went down the line, just bottle after bottle, picking them off the shelf. I think she only went with the shelf that she could reach directly at. Like, her arm didn't go up, it didn't go down, it went straight out, and she took that one shelf and shattered every bottle on it all the way down the aisle, and nobody stops her. And my question is, I see someone shooting video of this and no one really coming across to prevent the lady from doing this, is would you have stepped in and stopped what is definitely a crazy person from just shattering bottles of alcohol? And there's no real explanation so far as to why she was doing it. I don't know if she was personally having something going on, if she just wasn't in her right mind in general, or if this was some sort of way for her to I guess, protest something. But she went down. She was in a gray hoodie, khaki pants, and she had a backpack on, and she was just grabbing and smashing bottle after bottle of alcohol. And as you watch the video, too, if you're like me, a person who likes to imbibe in alcohol every so often, you shed a tear as you watch that, because that was one of the saddest videos I've seen this year that's not actually legitimately sad, because there was so much wasted alcohol, man, just so much of it gone. And I think of all the Thanksgiving parties that could not exist because, there was no booze. But it's just a trail of broken glass throughout the entirety of that aisle until eventually she's apprehended when the police arrive. But they just let her smash them. And is that another reaction to 2020, by the way? If it was a different year, do you think the grocery store would have tried a little harder to stop that woman? Or as she's doing it, people are just like, well, yeah, this is the year it is. I guess we're going to let her have her time. And it actually also reminds me a lot of those places you could go where you could just break everything. You pay somebody. You go to some like room that has a bunch of old stuff in it, and you just take a baseball bat to whatever. She did this in the real world. More power to her. She's going to serve some time for it, of course. But it does make me think that maybe if those establishments are open, if they're allowed to be open, there's probably skyrocketing interest in those kind of things this year as well. All right, this is Craig Collins filling in. A lot more of the Chad Benson Show in just a bit.
To be free. I am not a terrorist. I am not Antifa. I am not a sex slave that wears masks.
Don't be a cutie pie.
Probably sit around and cook some soups and eat bread and desserts and just get all fat and sassy.
You're running my life, Bob!
Yeah, you haven't seen anything yet.
You're listening to The Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins. Happy to be with you today. Chad is back on Monday. McDonald's is in hot water for something they put up on social media. And I do wonder if just all of us we've had enough of everything, and our tolerance for like anything that seems like it's not a big deal at all we're at absolute zero. And certainly Twitter almost operates at that point all the time. You can have an angry mob over, well, I guess this is a good example. Almost anything. McDonald's put up on their Twitter page the other day, one day you're ordering a Happy Meal for the last time and you didn't even know it, essentially referencing the fact that, yeah, a lot of us have Happy Meals as children, but eventually we all grow out of that move at the old McDonald's, and people could not deal, to use the lingo of the kids. Don't make me cry is what one person said back to McDonald's. Another person said, I'm actually shook at this, which I just love the idea that shook is used the way it is. I was not planning to cry today, but thank you, someone else. This is all in reaction to McDonald's just saying, the Happy Meal's a thing, and you used to get it. I remember as a kid, like the joy of the Happy Meal, which I don't even know if that's still as big. I don't think kids today, appreciate that as much as we did, and the little cheap toy that comes in the Happy Meal, and you're trying to get them all, so you keep going back. But there was unmitigated joy when the parents told you they were taking you to McDonald's for a Happy Meal. And it's just because it had a prize inside, like a Cracker Jack box. There was a prize inside at the end. Another fan on social media in response to McDonald's said, you didn't have to hurt me like that, man. That hit different. I don't know if people are just teasing and just joking around. But if all of us can't handle the McDonald's Happy Meal being something we're not choosing to order, because that's the thing. It's not like they took it off the menu. They're just referencing the fact that you don't order that when you're an adult, and people couldn't handle the truth. In other news, and this is definitely out of left field news, but the headline and the photo grabbed me, and I'm aware that this is radio, so you can't see the photo, although maybe we can put it up on our social media. I saw this story in one of my favorite, like, off the beaten path news websites, and it's totally true. There's this guy named Pretty Mike, and Pretty Mike is a socialite and a celebrity, I guess, in Nigeria, and he attended a celebrity get-together of some kind. It might have been a wedding. Recently, and a photo of him went viral because he celebrated it with his, quote, 6 girlfriends who are all allegedly pregnant with babies. He has 6 girlfriends who are all currently in different stages of pregnancy, all expecting to have kids in the next, 9 months, depending on where they're at. And he took all of his girlfriends with him to a wedding, a celebrity wedding. I can't fathom how difficult it would be to be the guy in that situation where you have 6 significant others at all. I mean, any of us could say that seems like way too many, and not just for the obvious reasons, but just dealing with the amount of emotions that might come in that situation. And now add on top of it the fact that all 6 of his girlfriends are currently pregnant at the same time. I don't. Oh man, he wore a pink jumpsuit, by the way, a pink suit. When he hung out at this, we got to get this photo in social media sometime. This guy does look awesome. He goes by the name Pretty Mike, as I said. I'm not sure what he did to be a celebrity other than, I guess, this. But yeah, he's out there in the world. He's not having a bad time in 2020. He's decided to live his life. And the challenges are just so profound for this man navigating the next few months / years. to have 6 different kids with 6 different women, have them all be babies at the same time. If 2 of them have the kid, because it seems like they're relatively close in the pregnancy process, if a couple of these women have a kid at the same time, what does Mike do? This is like the most ridiculous version of the sitcom where you got to be in 2 places at once. 2 of my girlfriends are having a baby today. How do I get to both? Do you do it in the same room? These are questions. I have questions. No one else does. I should move on, and yet I can't. But I will. There's one other quick story here. I know I'm almost out of time, so it's probably a good thing. I saw that an adult website is offering a lifetime membership. They did this last year on Black Friday. It's on sale again today. It's a life plan for one of the adult sites out there. And my biggest question, again, is how do you explain that to, say, you're in a relationship, the significant other, when you drop $100, $200, whatever the dollar amount is on that product for life? This is the Chad Benson Show. Greg Collins filling in. 6 pregnant girlfriends?
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins. Mike Pompeo, recently on Fox News, talking about the removal of troops, something that's been much discussed. Let's hear a little bit of that.
No, Brett, the agreement we signed in February talked about getting down to 0 by May based on a set of conditions on the ground. That was what we'd agreed to. We've made some progress. We've had significant prisoner releases. We have violence levels that have reduced risk to Americans significantly over this time period since February of last year. Afghanistan's violence levels are still higher than they need to be. I was with the Afghan government negotiators and with the Taliban negotiators just this past weekend in Doha, Qatar. I talked to each of them about the need to continue to conduct the negotiations which will lead to a unified, independent Afghanistan that protects all the gains that have been made over these past years, and the fact that they need to take violence levels down even further, and that the Taliban need to honor the commitment they made to make sure that there's not a terror attack that takes place from Afghan soil.
It would be a good thing to not have troops there anymore, and I know that there's a lot of debate as to whether or not that's logical right now. But at some point, whether it is now or later, it would be a good thing to no longer be engaged in what the current president of the United States, which Donald Trump has time and again said, are wars we shouldn't be fighting, and money we shouldn't be spending in places that he doesn't think make sense for us to be. And again, I know that there's a lot of back and forth, and there's a lot of military experts that I'm not as smart as, so I'm not going to tell you that I know better than them if we should or shouldn't be in that country. I just do understand, and sometimes maybe as your administration is winding down, as your time in power is coming to an end, you're motivated even more so than you maybe should be to get the things you promised to the American people done, something that I think the president is going to have a good track record on. I think that if we look back at some point with some version of fair eyes, which is going to be very hard to do with this current president, but if people look back in a fair way at the years in which he served the country, at least this time, I don't know that he won't do it again in 2024, but they'll say that he attempted to get a lot of his promises done. And this would be one of those promises, and obviously still a lot of work to do in that world. I also saw this, that there might be a blitz of additional pardons. Obviously, a pardon took place the other day. Michael Flynn was pardoned, and this might not be the last one. And this is not new, by the way. Anyone that tells you that this is something that's very strange, that only Donald Trump, only President Trump has done, no. And there have been politicians talking about trying to pull back the ability for presidential pardons to take place during the tail end of a presidency because they're kind of abused, according to those politicians, but we will see more. And some people even saying that President Trump should pardon himself for any potential lawsuits or things that might be coming down the aisle for him. But even President-elect Biden said that it's not going to be his goal to go down that road. So hopefully we don't have to get to any of those things, although it would be kind of interesting and more of the surrealness that is this year to watch a president after he's pretty much done pardon himself because he has to. And honestly, if you're on either side of that conversation and you paid any attention to the Russia scandal or lack thereof, you do know that it might make sense for the guy to do something like that, because the desire to investigate and get this guy in some kind of legal trouble for those that hate him, those that oppose him, is tremendously high. And so maybe it does make sense. In other news, and not necessarily uplifting, but news I can't help continue to talk about, the picture of the U.S. economy is worrisome, according to a lot of experts, as the virus inflicts additional damage on our economy, not just on people from a health standpoint, and that obviously is also happening. We are having a rise in cases at an extreme amount. These are some of the highest number of cases we've had since the start of the pandemic, some of the highest amount of hospitalizations we've had since the start of the pandemic. A lot of that health information isn't looking good. And yet, if you do a deep dive into the U.S. economy and the odds of additional struggle as we get into this second wave, as we wait for the vaccines, which all sound very, very promising, we're starting to see a lot of markers that are bad. 778,000 people filed for unemployment in the last week or so. That is up, and that is a fairly high number compared to a lot of what we've seen over the last few months outside of maybe the beginning of the time of the pandemic. Consumer increased spending month over month, also increased by just 0.5%. This is the weakest rise since the pandemic erupted back in the early stages. This tepid figure suggests that we're on the eve of a crucial holiday shopping season that may not materialize to the level that so many businesses. Can you imagine being a small business owner who sees a significant uptick, as almost all businesses do, around the Christmas season, and to have that not happen, to have struggled your way to now, to be a company that maybe is not necessarily, like many small businesses, doing well, and yet you're still open, you're still alive, you're still hoping for that rush of people at the end of the year to bring you into 2021 with the footing you need to continue to stay in business. There's been a ton of businesses that have closed, a ton of companies that have sadly not been capable of making it through this and are not coming back in all of our own communities, some bigger companies as well. But if you're one of those that has hung on this long, all the way through the ups and downs, the challenges of all of this, right now you are hoping for an uptick. And if it doesn't materialize, I can't imagine the amount of stress, the amount of anxiety, the amount of difficulty that goes into that. And so as we make these decisions, as states, as any sort of politician makes a decision, as President-elect Joe Biden starts to make decisions once he gets in office, you have to realize the impact you have economically on people when you shut down. And I feel like this is obvious information as I say it, and yet so many people dismiss this. And there was another hot take, and again, I think this is from the Chicago Tribune that I referenced earlier. I might as well just have this writer on as a guest at some point. But talking about a lot of the ways in which, the shutdowns are disproportionately harming small business owners, disproportionately harming communities with people that already struggle. We see that food banks are struggling to keep food for people, that they're hit so hard themselves by a need in all the different communities that even during the holiday season, when a lot of donations to the food banks really kind of skyrocket, several companies or several of the charities are saying that they don't have the food they need. Feeding America is one example, and their COO gave an interview recently where she said this year is especially hard because, of course, we are seeing consistent surge in demand of food at Feeding America food banks all across the nation. People in line will roll down their window and say, "Thank you for being here. I had no idea I would ever need this sort of service, and now I do." That's coming from the CEO of Food Bank of South Jersey, Fred Wisaki. And many, many individuals all throughout the country are saying how they are shocked at the amount of demand here and just here. And it's one of the very, I think, strong indicators that we are in a unprecedented time economically. And as we continue to make decisions for the quote unquote good of our of our country from a health standpoint, we have to realize all of the factors that go into that to make sure that we're making the best possible decision. I guess this is kind of good news if I'm shifting gears a tad. There was a deep dive into some of the things we've been doing since COVID-19 started to try to keep ourselves safe, like wiping down groceries. I don't know if you're someone that does that. I know a few people that do, and I know a lot of people that don't. But there was a study as to how valuable that is at, one, the products you even buy to do it. A lot of people need to purchase these sanitary wipes that are getting very difficult to find in order to do something like this. And then you wipe down everything you buy every time you go to a grocery store. And people are saying that the service doesn't pose anywhere near the risk we all thought it did. Well, you're still recommended to kind of clean up some of the items. Certainly, I guess the food that you buy at the grocery store. You don't really need to go as hard as maybe some people have in really scrubbing down every item you get at the grocery store because the surface transmission, and certainly in the way in which products are sitting on shelves for a little while, is not the risk we thought it was. And as we said, it might be posing a little bit of a challenge on people keeping things like sanitary wipes in stock. So hopefully that can change too. I did see this story that I thought was fairly interesting. And again, this is like the Debbie Downer segment of the show, so maybe I'll take a break in a second. Divorce rates skyrocketed during the normally quiet week of Thanksgiving. Lawyers blame the pandemic and maybe also the stress of the holidays, but apparently more people than have ever done it before during this week, during holiday weeks, filed for divorce. And I don't know if this is another story that we could have waited till next year to know about, but typically for these kind of days and maybe for the Christmas season too, you see a very quiet time there. But no, not this year. People are saying that they've had enough. They're done. They need to be out of the relationship they're in because the other person is whatever I guess is going on. I don't know. There's a whole lot of cases, but it's just another layer to the challenges that we all face as far as the way in which navigating this coronavirus and navigating the downturn of the economy or everything else has impacted us. And even if a lot of us wind up making it through this because of whatever decisions are made by politicians and wind up getting a vaccine and wind up never getting sick, even if all that happens, we did not avoid some of the impact of this because our economies were shut down and our governments made decisions that disproportionately impacted some of us. So that's going to exist no matter what. There's no way for people to avoid that. Hopefully, this all gets better much, much sooner rather than later, as I know those vaccines are getting closer and closer to being a real thing. All right, I got to take a break because this was a very sad segment. After the break, I'm going to tell you how drinking hot cocoa is good for you because I'm just going to try to transition full on to the nice things that are going on in the world. Craig Collins filling in on the Chad Benson Show.
No fake outrage here, just the real thing. The Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins, filling in for the day. Chad is back on Monday, taking the holiday weekend like he should. He deserves it. Pat Sajak maybe wish he had not done a show the other day, although I wonder when this got recorded because he's getting, yes, Wheel of Fortune host Pat Sajak is getting a backlash on social media for the way he interacted with a contestant who, by the way, was questioning a valid thing. The puzzle had the answer kitchen oven, which very few people, I think, refer to the oven as a kitchen oven and not just an oven. Someone on social media said this is like having a puzzle answer be the bathroom toilet. But let's hear just how mad Pat got at a contestant who won, joking around about the stupidity of the puzzle itself. He lost it, too. Everybody. Nobody has a tolerance for anything in 2020. Here is the proof of that.
Yeah, where else would you do that? Well, for sure in the kitchen. Who calls it a kitchen oven? You won. I won. I apologize. Darren? You got the puzzle. Ungrateful players I've had. Just teasing.
He said he was teasing at the end of that, and I know the audio is a little distorted, but this has gone viral on social media. Pat Sajak upset with ungrateful players, and he called him Karen, which, by the way, like I'm going to continue. And I don't know if this is the right thing to do. I'm going to focus on this. I feel bad for anyone with the name Karen. Like that is so viral now. That is so common that I heard a niece or a nephew call somebody Karen. I did spend time with family members over the Thanksgiving holiday. I know I feel terrible about it. I won't tell you where I was, what state I was in. But I did. I saw a few family members, and I saw, a niece call somebody a Karen at the family gathering, and I was like, man, like this is really way too viral, and I don't know why we chose that name. I don't know why we had to break bad. Were any of the people who went viral for being, obviously not smart in whatever they were doing, less than intelligent, were any of them actually named Karen, or was this just a flyby at those people? But Pat Sajak now also in trouble because he has a very low tolerance. But who calls it a kitchen oven? Let's be honest, Wheel of Fortune. There is a valid argument to be made there, right? I teased this story. I want to get to it. Drinking hot cocoa, it may actually make you smarter. There may be another benefit this holiday season. No word on if marshmallows are necessary, but a study out of the United Kingdom found that people who drink hot cocoa, and this is not, made up research. And again, I also think that some scientists are just trying very hard to discover happy things. I think we're studying puppies and kittens and all these things that we can possibly study to bring our spirits up as much as possible. And this is case in point, people believing, or at least looking into whether or not cocoa has a valuable add to our lives. Apparently, some of the ingredients in it, though, the molecules are naturally occurring in things like fruits and vegetables as well. So when you drink this product, the cocoa, the additional products within it, you are improving your brain function because you're stimulating brain blood oxygen levels. And that's a very good thing. So the next time you throw down on some cocoa, realize that you're doing it for your own health and that is obviously now a proven fact. And I've never checked up on any of these stories that I talk about, any of these studies on those feel-good moments to see if they were proven true or if the next study totally debunked it, because I don't want to know. Those are the kind of things that I believe it if I've seen it once, and then I get to move on, and it's wonderful. I also saw this story in the news, and I am taking a break, if you can't tell, from a lot of the serious news of the day, because I can't help myself. But Fox 9 in Minneapolis reporting on the stuff that matters. They are covering the community like everyone should be throughout the country. They found video of a drunk squirrel. A woman, I guess, posted some video of a squirrel that got loose after having some bad pears. It's teetering on a railing. It's maybe I'll put this video up on social media. But squirrels are sort of intense. I got to be honest. If you've ever crossed a squirrel in a bad way or a raccoon in a rough way, you know that this can turn out bad. And just think about them getting drunk now like everybody else in 2020. And I think we're going down a bad road. But the fact that one of the news organizations, that Minneapolis's Fox station, would cover this at length on their broadcast entertained me quite a bit. The video has also gone viral. The critter appears dazed. It appears as though its hind legs are not working as well as they should, which might describe a lot of us on this Thanksgiving holiday we just had. The pears were very old. I bet they were fermented. The owner of the house told the station, the owner of the video, and then he got drunk, and I did not mean to do that. So I went out and I grabbed all the pears to help other squirrels not get drunk. Although, honestly, I think she's doing a disservice to the animals in her community because, if they need a break, if they need a way to chill just a bit, maybe you should have left them out, and the one squirrel will bring all his buddies next time. In the morning, he came back with a little bit of a hangover for some breakfast, and he's been fine ever since. That is thorough reporting. There are often stories that I feel like we didn't ask enough questions. We didn't gain enough information. The story about the drunk squirrel, we followed up. We saw if the next day if Little Red, which apparently is his nickname now in social media, had made it through just fine. And we know that he's doing great. He's a little hungover, but he's gonna pull through. So thank you for that reporting to the people at Fox in Minnesota. That is fantastic. I got a lot more to get to in just a bit here. I want to talk about Japan. I got a couple stories out of Japan that might surprise you. There's a New Jersey mansion for sale that is going for quite a bit of money and making people mad because, selling a mansion right now, I guess, isn't the easiest thing to do. And also, I want to talk about swans that caused havoc at a train station. The big news coming up after this on The Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins, filling in for the day. Chad is back on Monday. The president spoke yesterday.
I mean, they have Biden beating Obama on Obama's vote in areas that mattered in terms of the election, in swing states. And yet he's losing to Obama all over the place. But he's beating Obama in swing states, which are the states that mattered for purposes of the election. So, no, I can't say that at all. I think it's a possibility. They're trying to look between you people. Don't talk to me that way. You're just a lightweight. Don't talk to me that way. Don't talk to. I'm the president of the United States. Don't ever talk to the president that way.
I can't help it. I can't help but laugh. And look, I know that a lot of people are going to think that he's inappropriately scolding a guy for asking questions a certain way. Although I could play another question. Someone asking him whether or not he'll run in 2024 and if he's willing to say that he won't, which is just ridiculous as far as questions go. But that's a scolding from the president of the United States to one of the reporters and calling him a lightweight. I'm going to miss this stuff.
All right, I'm going to go with another question. Go ahead.
So if the Electoral College does elect President-elect Joe Biden, are you not going to leave this building?
Just so you, certainly I will. Certainly I will.
I love the way that this question is asked, actually, too. Are you not going to leave this building, the White House? Are you going to just hunker down, stay indoors, do whatever you can? No, of course I'm going to leave.
And you know that. But I think that there will be a lot of things happening between now and the 20th of January. A lot of things.
The president still believes that he has a legal fight. And there are some cases that are still out there. There's some decisions still to be made, obviously, as you've seen. But a lot of people are saying that maybe this isn't going to work out the way. The funniest thing about this, as we continue to talk about it, and I continue to talk about it, is if you remember 4 years ago, an amount of Hillary supporters and Hillary herself talking about how there might have been some problems with some of the voting, some of the machines, some of the situations as far as maybe some fraud took place, accidental or otherwise, some technology hacking. And if you remember, that was the time when Russia was just the worst thing, the most dangerous thing to our economy ever, the amount of influence they had in our election. And so it's very interesting 4 years later to see it go the other way and to see the president not being willing, maybe to the surprise of many, even Republicans, to be fair, to back off the claim that he won this election. This far into it, with this much already kind of been debunked, it's surprising to many, but it's really not all that different than the messaging that took place. Now, granted, I know Hillary Clinton did concede much sooner than the president has, but other than that, there was a lot of rumors to potential challenges or just thoughts about maybe some of the voting equipment, the voting software malfunctioning. That is a conversation we were having 4 years ago. I just want to continue to mention it. In New Jersey, there is a house that's for sale. It's a Christmas mansion, is what it's being called, because right now it is decked out in Christmas-themed decorations. It is an intense amount of decorating. I don't even know who to compare it to, because this is not, no one goes this road as far as the indoor decorating. It's a 4-bedroom, 5-bathroom mansion. I don't see a lot of mansions where you have more bathrooms than bedrooms, but that's cool. It I guess is getting a lot of flack on social media, though, because the list price is $2 million, and people think this is the wrong time to try to sell a mansion, which is an odd thing to say to someone who's trying to sell their house. Visitors who enter will immediately notice that there's 2 different nativity scenes set up. There are several nutcrackers, which is, from the play. That's not the other thing. Wreaths, Santa Clauses, just throughout the house. There's at least 3 Christmas trees and countless ornaments. By the way, only because it's Black Friday, I know about this, because I've searched the internets for some of the sales. I was very interested in a lot of the things going on. There's a fake Christmas tree that's Amazon Alexa enabled. Is anyone aware of this? There's an Alexa Christmas tree. And I was looking at not because I wanted to buy it, although I kind of sort of did, because I have way too much smart technology in my house, and Bezos knows too much about me that he shouldn't know probably. But it actually talks about the different things you could tell the tree, like what color to turn or to flicker or to wave the light. I mean, that's a level of laziness that I love, I guess, that's going to one day turn us all into the fat human beings from that Pixar movie, the one where they're all riding around, WALL-E, where they're all riding around in little scooters or what have you, because none of us can walk anymore. The light up Alexa enabled Christmas tree is a step too far. It is. It is cool though that you can make it change colors of the lights. See, I'm already talking about how I kind of like it. But to go back to the story of the mansion for sale, I think that we need to back off at least telling people they can or can't sell their home. And if they want to deck it out with Christmas decorations to make it, less or more, I don't think it would make me more likely to buy it. I think the opposite. If you decorated in a very odd way to a very extreme extent a place you're trying to sell, maybe they don't really want to sell it. Maybe they just wanted to go viral for their holiday-themed, home. But it's 5,420 square feet. It is a mansion that sits on 2.77 acres. It's very fancy, very Christmassy right now, and causing a lot of issues on social media. Although I guess I could just end any story with that. I bet you I can find any story that's out there in the world, a social media rant about how it's the worst thing ever, because that's the way we exist. The pandemic is having an adverse effect on Hollywood. This is a story in the news. I think the AP has covered this in the New York Times. But they are talking about how Hollywood itself, there's a lot of layoffs right now. A lot of the bigger companies like Disney are getting nowhere near the amount of revenue that they expected from those branches of their companies. And actually, there's a push to put more and more things online. A few different products like the Mulan movie have debuted almost entirely on the internet because, it's been a difficult year to get to the cinema. And there is some concern now by a lot of people that maybe this is going to be the moving forward aim of all of the companies, that the movie theater itself will be one of the many things to go by the wayside after the year that we've all had. And I really hope that doesn't happen because I really enjoy seeing a movie in the theater. And I wonder if you do too. Tweet at us, message us on our text, do whatever you can to reach out to us and let us know if you care at all if movies no longer debut in movie theaters but debut in your home. I think there's one coming up that's going to be the Wonder Woman movie. Is going to be on like the HBO product, Wonder Woman 1984. And a lot of the, I guess, people in Hollywood are discussing the amount of cost that they might be able to save by just debuting it on their products. I think that maybe the amount of even advertising you do to try to get people to watch this would be different if you're doing it on your own streaming platform. Although we are going to get to a place where every single company that makes any kind of entertainment has their own streaming platform. And we're already pretty close to there, I think. But it's not going to be tenable. We can't keep having company after company put out their own product and you're expected to buy them all because it is way too much. And at least in the case of the Mulan movie, that didn't even really help you. If you did have the Disney Plus service, you still had to spend extra money to watch the movie. And I think it was like $30. So significantly extra money on top of your membership. And if we just go that road, I can see there being some issues. In other pandemic-related news I find interesting, there is a brand new product that's expected to do well on the market. But this also is us just turning into Wall-E. There is a brand new, and I'm quoting here, bed, couch, desk massager available on the internet. It's the Hararan, I think I'm saying that right, Tech Smart Ultimate Bed. That's what it is. It's available on places like Amazon and other things. I keep getting pushed ads for this bed. I can't believe that it's real, said someone on Twitter, and this went viral a couple days ago. It's available in all different colors and fabrics. And it has all the things I just said. The bed is the centerpiece, but off to the, I think, left side of the bed, there is what appears to be a massage chair that exists. There's also then a desk kind of connected off to the side of that, as well as, I guess, what folds up part of the bed into a couch. So you literally never have to leave this one furniture piece. You could just roll from portion to portion of it throughout your day to go from, if so many of us are working at home, sleeping, to relaxing on your couch watching TV, to getting a quick early morning massage chair in, and then doing the desk work throughout the day, and then just roll backward to fix the rest of your evening. We can't. This has got to go. We got to get this product off of all of the services it's on ASAP because we can't let ourselves go that road. There is also a story out of The Guardian I saw about how Apple might be turning us all into cyborgs. I don't know why I'm talking about this stuff. I'm aware you came here for politics. I can't help it. These are the stories that interest me on a Black Friday with so much going on in the world. But apparently, because we're so glued to our cell phones and everything else, that a recent study demonstrated how we're getting closer and closer to just being, part machine. And when they do finally invent the chip that you can put inside you, people are going to do it. There's human beings out there in the world that when they tell you that the smartwatch can go inside of your skin, they'll be like, sign me up, I'm in. And I'm not even telling you that I'm an exception to that. Maybe if it's good enough. If they can make my brain, if you can put something, computer thing into my brain and make me as smart as the internet, I might be interested myself. But they're saying that these products that we have, especially now that there's things like the COVID tracker, which maybe we should be concerned about the way in which that app works to see your risk. I mean, in China, which they're still trying, and I know I talked about this the other day, but in China, they're still trying to make this kind of the trend everywhere else in the world, that they'd expect you to have this if you're traveling anywhere. But it's an app that tracks your level of risk, the amount of interaction you've had with people just in your everyday life, people you don't even know. So say you go to the grocery store and your phone acknowledges that some other phone in the vicinity, somebody has or came in contact with coronavirus, and they're tracking everyone there through these apps. It turns a different color. Your phone would have 3 different stages, have a green light, a yellow light, and a red light. And when you get to red, the government in China is saying that you can't go anywhere, that you have to go inside and stay inside. And you don't have coronavirus, just so you know. You've just been exposed enough via your interactions every day that you might have it. And that, to me, is tremendously scary. And the abuses of that platform are tremendously scary. But this story says that because that's yet another solution, and maybe just going forward, if we ever have another, and I pray to God, I'm going to knock on every piece of wood I have around me, that we never have another health crisis like the one we're having this year, that we lean on more and more of these technologies and these tracking things. We're just going to be giving up freedoms in a way that's unprecedented, and giving up information in a way that's unprecedented. Even the smart technology that you have in your home pales in comparison to a tracker on your phone that the government has access to, and they're aware of what color it is, so they know if you should be indoors or outdoors. That is a scary, scary world for us to find.
Set Chad straight. Text the show, 323-538-2423. That's 323-538-CHAD. Someone has to do it. Might as well be you. The Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins, filling in for the day. Chad is back on Monday. Deserves the holiday weekend off because he's been working very hard and does an excellent show. And if you do want to complain on social media about the program, you're actually going to shoot at me at Craig Collins on social media, Craig Collins Show, not at Chad. I saw that Macy's is under fire for the Thanksgiving Day parade, and I covered this at other times on the show. Is just the fact that it was such an odd, very different version of that experience, and a lot of people question whether or not it needed to exist at all. But Macy's is also under fire because they recently described a group, a black sorority that was part of the parade, as a, quote, diverse dancing group. They didn't describe them by the name of the sorority or the name of the dance team. They actually described this group from Howard University as, quote, a diverse dance group. And it's made a lot of people very, very upset, performing a special routine they put together to help us celebrate this unprecedented year. They exclaimed on social media on their tweet. The tweet prompted a response from MSNBC, among other people, and Joy Reid, getting very upset. The Zeta Phi Beta is a black sorority founded at Howard U in 1920 and part of the Divine Nine, she said on social media. They are not necessarily the way that they were described, according to her. I'm tired of businesses using black entities, including historically black sororities and fraternities, as a means to look more diverse and accepting. That is something that someone else on social media said. It's clear how performative this attempt was due to your own lack of research for your own parade performers. I don't know if maybe portions of the parade, I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there as a potential explanation without any ability to know for sure. But I imagine this was all, figured out on the fly as far as the Macy's parade goes, because the restrictions were ever changing and the amount of people maybe interested in performing was ever changing. And so obviously it was a very unique experience for anyone that watched it. I don't know that the intention is what people accuse it to be. That's the other thing is if someone somewhere misspeaks in a way, and even Joe Biden did this, by the way. Anyone that voted for President-elect Joe Biden disregarded when he said that if you vote for Donald Trump, you ain't black. That is something that he said while on the campaign trail, and it made some people very mad, and a lot of people just said, no, it was harmless. What he did, the way in which he intended that sentence was not as malicious as as the people who are upset. That was kind of the couching of it in certain circles. And the same could be true of anything. But to accuse the parade of being purposefully, diverse or whatever in their decision making, it is interesting. People can't make mistakes. That's the other thing. Like, people can't accidentally step in, anything in today's world, because you will absolutely be torched for it. All right, I've teased the story a lot of times. I haven't gotten to it. I do want to move on. There is a train station here. It actually is in another country. It's not here in the United States. I think it's in the UK. And they had two swans that caused havoc all over the station. This video has gone viral on social media. Some are comparing it to the movie Hot Fuzz, a movie that, if you haven't seen, it is very funny, in which they do take on an animal. But these two swans just didn't seem to care about people anymore. And they were attacking / trying to take over a stop on a train path. And I got to say that I don't know if it was the lockdown, if it was all the time in quarantine for all the human beings. But a lot of these animals do seem like they're less afraid. Like they took back part of the world and they don't want to give it up so quickly. And so this video is fairly hilarious because there are officers involved in trying to apprehend the birds. And they have like these big blankets they're trying to cover them with to escort them away from the train station. But it's tremendously amusing to me because I think maybe you have had an interaction or two with a wild animal. Maybe it's just a goose or something at a park that seems way less afraid of you than they used to be. And maybe that's the silly thing we can say. Maybe this is the way in which to try to add a little bit of levity to all the lockdowns and things that have happened, is we're emboldening the wild animals that exist in our communities. And we might need to rethink that. We might need to think a way to prevent the silly birds or the angry, grumpy animals from taking back our public places. This is the PSA that I'm putting out. And go ahead and tweet at us. Tell us how dumb that was to talk about at the Chad Benson Show. When he gets back, he's like, what did he say? What PSA did Craig do on Friday? He said something about we need to stop lockdowns because animals are going wild. Is that real? Yeah, I said it. I did. I was kidding when I said it. I hope everybody knows, just like the president was joking about a lot of the things he gets in trouble for. All right, I should take a break. Craig Collins filling in on the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins, filling in for the day. Thrilled to be with you. Chad is back on Monday. A lot going on in the world. This might not shock you, at least out of New York. Some of the numbers are in for the Black Friday sales so far. We are still in the midst of Black Friday, I guess, even though technically a whole lot of places put stuff on sale much, much earlier than they're one to do. According to some information that's been coming out recently about the amount of shopping that's going on in the biggest city in our country, it's way, way down from the expectations before. About 30 shoppers were queued outside of Macy's before 6 a.m. at one of the stores in New York City. The big box retailer was peddling doorbuster deals like $20 smartwatches, 40% off, $20 watches, 40% off some of the boots and other shoes. I got here at 7 a.m., but there was no line at all. Said one of the people quoted by, I think, the New York Post covering this story. We've been having Black Friday sales for 3 weeks now. One of the workers at one of the stores said we had doorbuster sales 2 weeks ago. Maybe that's why more people aren't shopping today. But the quick analysis, the quick reaction to what's been seen throughout the day on Black Friday, at least in some of the places, is that sales are down. And I do wonder, and I will continue to wonder, if this season, this holiday season, isn't as successful as many companies are used to it being, if that will be the last straw for a lot of companies, if that'll be what turns the tide and makes us, see story after story of company going under because they could not handle the financial impact, the economic impact of this year. Stock market is doing well, though. If I want to pivot as positively as possible, stocks are rising again. It looks like things are going in the positive direction. This will be a historically good month for Wall Street, the month of November, if the trends continue, I guess, up until the very end of the month on Monday. It's a very interesting situation because obviously there's a lot of concern, a lot of worry about things like unemployment numbers going up and what have you. But the stock market so far has avoided a lot of that hit. The Dow, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ were all up at least 2% on Friday. This follows a trend in which obviously a record was broken, and the president did a press conference that everybody hated. Man, did everybody hate the quick 30,000 number press conference in which the historic number was passed, and the president just called a very quick conference to humble brag, certainly, about it and then walk away while reporters were yelling questions at him. And honestly, if you watch the way in which the questions go and the way in which he takes and goes back and forth with the reporters, and I have audio, I can play that audio again, you're not surprised that if you're this president, you might shy away from answering questions on a daily basis. Here is an example of that, and this is obviously viral audio from yesterday of the president on his Thanksgiving conversation. And he was made fun of for the little desk he was sitting at, too, which was really little, but still, it's just silly. But here's part of that audio.
I mean, they have Biden beating Obama on Obama's vote in areas that mattered in terms of the election, in swing states. And yet he's losing to Obama all over the place. But he's beating Obama in swing states, which are the states that mattered for purposes of the election. So, no, I can't say that at all. I think it's a possibility. They're trying to look between you people. Don't talk to me that way. You're just a lightweight. Don't talk to me that way. I'm the president of the United States. Don't ever talk to the president that way.
That makes me laugh. It does. I don't know why. I don't know if it makes you laugh. I think it does. But honestly, it's been, and like, I don't know who threw the first stone, who attacked who first. President Trump is a guy that made his name in the biggest city in our country, and media there is tough. I'm a fan of some sports teams out of New York City, like the Yankees, and they'll tell you, and I know anyone that now hates the Yankees is like, this guy's an idiot. But anyway, they'll tell you that media is very difficult. So President Trump, Donald Trump, cut his teeth dealing with that type of media. And then obviously on the campaign trail, as he was getting elected in 2016, talked a lot about the fake news media and maybe opened some people's eyes to ways in which there was biased coverage of things that maybe we thought were a little less bias. And obviously the back and forth since has been intriguing. What I find very interesting about these press conferences, by the way, is it does kind of almost feel like there's a team against the president. It almost, like, as reporters are going back and forth with the guy and maybe he's not answering questions or getting annoyed in some of the interactions, the next reporter up usually just follows through with the question. It's like they have a hive mind, like they're the internet, like they're Twitter or Facebook, and they're all coming in with one goal, one thing to talk about, because this is the very next part of that press conference.
All right, I'm going to go with another question. Go ahead.
So if the Electoral College does elect President-elect Joe Biden, are you not going to leave this building?
The way in which that's asked, come on. Are you not going to leave this? Are you not going to leave the White House? Are you not going to leave this building? Couldn't you ask that in a little more, a lot more respectful of a way? So if, the president-elect, if Joe Biden is actually, the process is finished and the Electoral College picks him and not you, are you going to leave the White House? I don't even know.
Just so you, certainly I will. Certainly I will. And you know that.
Certainly I will. And you know that. Although the coverage, the news coverage, not fake, well, whatever you want to call it, questioned whether or not he'd leave. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine what that would be like if Donald Trump, if the president of the United States just refused to leave the building? If he wasn't, like, come on. No. I know everyone wants to say that he's the most irrational human that's ever existed in the history of human beings. And I know some who are more irrational, by the way. But that just makes no sense whatsoever. That it's like, okay, I've lost. They've all said I've lost. Joe showed up and his family's here and I'm just not leaving. I'm just going to stay. They make like a little desk. Apparently he's got one, so he can sit on the side. I mean, come on. That's the ludicrous is a question to be asked. And for him to have to say it in that way, I would leave, is part of the reason. Then he just walks away from press conferences in the middle of the week and doesn't take any questions from you guys. Amazon workers are standing up and protesting. There's activists and activism going on. Apparently, there's a lot of warehouse protesting right now during the Black Friday sales that are so big online, too, and the Cyber Monday sales that are coming up. This is also in response to a lot of the bonuses that I guess were sent to the workers, which I think was about like $300 a person. Some of the people feel that they haven't been treated fairly all year, and I can't imagine working in an Amazon warehouse during this time. It was probably very hectic, very busy, but hey, you had a job. That's a pretty good thing, I would imagine. But make Amazon pay is part of the trending philosophy going on right now. It's a global protest of the e-commerce giant. They are trying as best they can, I guess, these workers to unionize or organize together and prevent Amazon from successfully delivering products throughout the country or throughout the world on a holiday like this. I don't know if this will be successful. I don't know how many people it is, but there are rumors that this is going on well beyond the United States in places like Brazil, Mexico, the UK, Spain, France, Belgium, Germany, Italy, Poland, India, all over the world. Lots and lots of Amazon workers are deciding to protest the unfair conditions, the unfair treatment they've been getting in a year that is tremendously challenging for absolutely everyone. And I don't mean to say this insensitively, but even I imagine the corporation that is Amazon struggled a tad to figure out all the unique challenges that exist in a year like this and exist when you need to have people in warehouses moving products in order to have a business on your own. All right, let's shift gears. One last time, I want to touch on Thanksgiving a bit. I saw a story about things you're going to do with the Thanksgiving leftovers, maybe 5 unexpected recipes you might try if you spent Thanksgiving with a very small group, or if you spent it, just with the people within your household. I wonder how many people still went for the full meal, still had all the side dishes, still had the bird of a significant size, because the leftovers are going to be tremendous. And there's some options here. You can make mashed potato waffles, which I had not considered. A lot of these are just re-upping the Thanksgiving meal for a different time of day. Breakfast seems to be a popular item to do. Not, a waffle person, that's fine. There's a lot of other options they set out there. But the mashed potato waffle with just a few binding ingredients added to it apparently is a heck of a hit. I want to try this. I have leftover mashed potatoes, and comfort food plus breakfast, like adding more foods to that equation than the ones we're typically used to, that doesn't sound so bad. You can also make a mashed potato soup. Mashed potato pizza is an item that is being recommended here. There's a lot of different things. Apparently, these are all mashed potato related. Make fried mashed potato balls. I don't know if I can do that at home. I had a buddy that made a deep fried turkey for just himself and his wife that put it up on social media. And I applaud this man because I've never deep fried the bird. And go ahead and let us know on social media if you have and if it's delicious. But he did it for just 2 people. And that apparently they both loved it. They had a great time. But man, oh man, do they have turkey now for days if they need it. So that is interesting to me. But I guess if you need, there's different ways to at least the side dishes, because I imagine you don't have to stick to just the mashed potatoes. You can turn these into waffles, into soup, into all kinds of other things, and even just deep fry it. If all else fails, make the carnival decision to deep fry the item and see if it tastes good like that. All right, this is Craig Collins filling in. More Chad Benson Show in a bit.
Serving up talk radio medium rare and dripping with irony. It's Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in for the day. Chad is back on Monday. People are now visiting the mysterious metal monolith that popped up in Utah. I guess they discovered it by accident. People were very intrigued by how long it's been there, although there might have been some sort of satellite image to show us that it's been there a lot longer than just a recent few weeks. It is a tall metal monolith that is deep in the Red Rock Desert. And this was first talked about on the news earlier this week, I believe. People are now taking social media photos and going, like, that's all it takes. I mean, we have so many businesses, so many things struggling this year, and yet the best way to get people to flock to your establishment or whatever it is come up with a unique social media strategy, a unique, crazy thing. Just put a metal hunk of something somewhere weird. I don't know what this is. Like, what is it about human beings that, and this can be celebrated, by the way, on social media, even though going to your own Thanksgiving dinner would get you beat up by most of the people you know, or at least a portion of your friends on things like Facebook. But going and visiting the metal monolith, totally fine, totally different. Many users on social media platforms have been talking about, I guess, some of the satellite imagery demonstrating that this thing has been there since about 2016. But it does not matter. People do not care. You got to go out. You got to check out the trend right away. Can we figure out a way to utilize this mindset, this truth of the world in which we live today, to get more of the businesses and people that desperately need traffic, foot traffic, and human beings? Can we get them in more stores? Can the monolith do a tour? Can we take it out of the ground that it's in Utah and just start putting it other places? Will people flock to those locations? Because we got to think outside the box here, people, to save certain things. And actually, if we're thinking outside the box, we're doing something very similar to this Ohio hospital. There is a hospital at the University of Ohio that decided to hire a justice volunteer to try to raise some people's feelings. It's not necessarily what you think. It's not going for the woke move. It's just going toward your heartstrings, because the volunteer is a dog named Shiloh. And the dog named Shiloh is now working at the hospital. There have been several photos that have gone viral of this dog visiting all the different people who are in the hospital for whatever reason. And I know there's probably some sort of person somewhere, some expert that's going to say that this enhances risk of transmission of coronavirus because the dog could get it and then give it to other people. And I'm not hearing that person, because the adorably cute dog has gone viral on social media. And we also need this. I'm going to continue to steal the ideas. Move the monolith to your business is idea number one that Craig Collins has come up with on the Chad Benson Show today. And number two idea is to get a pet for your office space. As people are in offices, we should just throw out all the, okay, I know some allergies and some other things might make this trickier, which makes that no fun. And I would like us to go like crazy with the animal of choice. You know, some of the zoos aren't getting a lot of people going to them because they can't really have that. So maybe they can license out their animals. This probably isn't safe. So you could have like a panda walking through your office space. Wouldn't that be cool? If we didn't just go with like a dog or a cat, but if to make people feel better, to make 2020 feel, and certainly the holiday season, like it's not so terrible, put Santa hats on all different kinds of zoo animals and let them loose in office buildings. This is the idea that I have in earnest on the Chad Benson Show today. And you can send your complaints to Craig Collins Show on Facebook or on Twitter or where have you. But I think that would be pretty cool. If you're just sitting at your desk, maybe typing something out, and you got to go ahead and feed the polar bear that's sitting in the office space with you. Maybe a little more dangerous as an idea, but still the kind of thing that we can all get behind, I think, to make this an easy end to hopefully a year we all forget very, very soon. In other news, and this is Japanese news that I want to share, there is a company that's willing to buy your face. And I feel like I've talked about them before, which says a lot about me. But the company wants to buy your face and sell it as a hyper-realistic mask. They would pay you about $380 for you to send them enough photos of your face, enough 3D images or whatever, in order to manufacture it. There's an estimated cost for the mask of about $1,000, so you're not getting the full pop there. You're only getting about 40% of the sale price. But that's still not bad. If you need an extra $340, apparently you just submit your face to this Tokyo-based company, and they will potentially buy it from you. The controversial project named That Face reportedly aims to give a sci-fi twist to the idea of buying and selling certain masks. I don't know if this is like for Halloween or something. You just go as someone else. That'd be very creepy. Or if we're trying to get to like the world of movies where, you know, the crime is taking place and the guy is wearing someone else's face. But it's all very confusing. And with all the different cameras and technology that exists now today, I can't imagine how this could possibly be I can imagine how this would be abused. But there you go. If you need a little extra cash, just go ahead and submit several photos of your face to this company out of Japan, and hopefully they pay you for it. There's also another company right now being talked about a lot out of Japan that is selling the most blinged out, and this is the way they describe it, face mask. It is reportedly a mask that has a bunch of different pearls and crystals and all kinds of stuff on it. It is maybe helpful in protecting against things like coronavirus or preventing, but probably not. Probably it's really just about wearing something fancy. It costs almost $10,000. It's 9.6 G's. You got to buy this thing, $9,600. And the apparel giant Coxco Limited began selling the masks last week and is already doing well. They're selling them at mask.com, which is a website I'm very impressed that they got. I imagine there was some sort of fight for that one. Everyone is feeling down because of coronavirus, their CEO says, and it would be great if we could make people feel better by looking at one of these glittering masks. Look, I'll tell you this. I will be very honest, and I'm not going to try to, shame anybody for having the cash to be able to buy something like this. But if I see a person walking around in my neighborhood wearing a pearl, crystal, and other decked out things mask, I'm going to be a little bit miffed. I'm not going to say anything to them probably, but that's just dumb. There's something about it that, like, I don't need to goose every item that comes into my life. Some fashion companies and some fashion lovers are saying that this product is great and on the market. There are 6 physical mask.com locations, so check it out. Greg Collins filling in. More Chad Benson Show in a bit.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. I would like, at some point, to be allowed to advise politicians on something. I'd like to be some sort of consultant. Hire me for the gig, please. Because the number one thing I would tell you to do, if you're one of the people that's front and center every single day, all the time, telling us, to be safe, to not travel, to not do anything for Thanksgiving, or to be afraid of coronavirus and COVID-19 and do everything we can to protect other people. If you're going to use and say all those things into a camera and you're a person in a position of power, you got to live that life. That would be my first piece of advice. And one of the people that I wish I worked for, and I think he wishes I worked for him now, is the mayor of Denver, Michael Hancock. He had been saying for a while via television and his social media page to not do anything for the holidays. He recently had tweeted, "Pass the potatoes, not COVID. Stay home as much as you can, especially if you're sick. Host virtual gatherings instead of in-person dinners. Avoid travel if you can. Order your holiday meal from a local eatery. Shop online with a small business Black Friday hashtag and other things like that." And then guess what? A camera caught him at the airport flying to Denver. That happened. And he has already issued a statement, an apology, because, people were a little upset that you say one thing and do another. And honestly, the amount of politicians that do that on the left is concerning all the time. And one of the biggest reasons why you might not understand it if you have a friend that says that they just don't trust the government. But then you see stuff like this, and it's very hard to argue with that friend. Hancock on his social media pages said, and I believe he just issued this statement to all of the local press places in Denver. "I fully acknowledge that I have urged everyone to stay home and avoid unnecessary travel. I have shared how my family canceled our plans for a traditional multi-house Thanksgiving celebration. Congrats, I guess, is what I'm supposed to say in response to that part. What I did not share, but should have, is that my wife and my daughter have been in Mississippi, where my daughter recently took a job. As the holiday approached, I decided it would be safer for me to travel to see them than to have 2 family members travel back to Denver to see me. Or, I don't know, follow the advice he gave and have Thanksgiving alone. I know it's emotional. I know it's sad. But there are people that listened to you, Michael, and did what you told them to do and had to have Thanksgiving for one because they don't have maybe a significant other in their life and they didn't travel to see their family because you told them not to. You told them to pass the potatoes, not COVID. And then you went ahead and passed COVID, I guess. I don't know what you're doing. He said that I recognize that my decision has disappointed many who believe it would have been better to spend Thanksgiving alone. As a public official whose conduct is rightfully scrutinized for the message it sends to others, I apologize to the residents of Denver who see my decision as conflicting with the guidance to stay at home for all but essential travel. Yeah, they do. And it's weird that you can just apologize. You know what I mean? Can we all just apologize? Can anybody who decided to spend Thanksgiving with any friends, any family, just go ahead on the social media page, say, I'm sorry about that thing that I did, and let everybody move on? People shouldn't move on from these moments when politicians are utterly contradicting everything they're saying to us, everything they're saying to you and your community. It makes no sense for someone like, how could he possibly think that that was a good idea? If you're going to be someone that's front and center, if you feel that maybe it's your political party that's telling you to do it, and that's why you step up. If you obviously don't believe that things are as fearful as you're saying they are, if you're willing to travel and see your family for the holiday, you obviously don't think you're going to get coronavirus on the flight, which, congrats to you. I don't know how you do that. Also, the left is going very crazy today because of who they're calling Amy COVID Barrett. That's Amy Coney Barrett, who recently passed made the tie-breaking decision in the Supreme Court's ruling on the New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's order limiting religious gatherings. This is because those gatherings, the restrictions on them were very tight, and that some of the experts who spoke in this case and in earlier versions of the case said that there's a likelihood in places like New York for hundreds of people to gather accidentally at things like grocery stores, which obviously we need to keep open and are essential, and that religion is just as essential to some people and just as valuable to some. And so to limit those gatherings to 10, 20, to very small amounts of people made no sense in comparison to the places in which people can congregate. And so the decision was cast, and the final vote, the tie-breaking vote was cast, I guess, by the newest of our Supreme Court justices, and people are just going nuts. There's a lot of people begging for her to already be impeached, which I don't even know if that's exactly the thing you call that, by the way, to remove her from that, which will not happen. Also, I want to tell you that. And a lot of people are now urging to pack the court, which is one of the biggest concerns people had, and one of the things that Joe Biden avoided every time he was asked a pointed question on it. Just add members to the Supreme Court to get rulings back in your favor. And that also makes absolutely no sense to me. It's been a long time since we've messed with the numbers on the Supreme Court, and just to do it seems to be, reckless at absolute. Because honestly, and we're seeing this with the executive orders, we're seeing this with everything. If you make a political move like this, it's just going to be counteracted by the person who comes next. We're going to have like 1,000 people on the Supreme Court at some point, because every time it gets tilted one way or the other, which is the goal of a political party, you're just going to have the next guy try to add more people. And the next, once you have control of everything, or take people, I don't know what you do, but eventually you're going to have like a baseball team worth of humans on the Supreme Court, because all of these actions don't actually, do anything in the long run, because it doesn't prevent the other side from just doing the same thing. I don't understand it. In other news, the CDC has issued a warning on holiday travel to Mexico. This is travel over the next month or so, or I don't know, maybe just for a while. The Center for Disease Control is saying that Mexico is a very high level risk as far as COVID-19 is concerned. There's lots and lots of cases there. You probably, I don't know if probably, but you may not be able to re-enter the United States, it says, without doing a 14-day quarantine if you do travel to Mexico. Travel may increase your chance of getting and spreading COVID-19, the CDC says. Staying home is the best way to protect yourself and others from COVID-19. Airports, bus stations, train stations, and rest stops are all places travelers can be exposed to the virus. Tell that to the mayor in Denver. Though these are some places where it can be hard to socially distance. If you travel, take steps before, during, and after to keep yourself and others safe from COVID-19. I guess this is a point to tell you, to admit on the air, my wife is from Mexico. I married someone born and raised in Mexico, became a U.S. citizen, and we live here now. And she needs to go see her family at least once a year, and she had not done it because of all the restrictions that took place. And she decided, because there were some health concerns for some of her family members, to go in late October or early November, and she's still there. And she's canceled a couple flights and continued to stay there because of some concern she has. It may be, things being a little bit too crowded right now at the airports, which makes sense. But also just in general, hoping to get back at some point, U.S. citizen, my wife in Mexico, and it may be more challenging. And she didn't go to celebrate a holiday or anything else. She went because she wanted to see family members, one of which who is fighting cancer. And she took extreme precautions, by the way, on her flights. For anyone that's like, this is terrible, this guy, this host on the radio is saying that his wife did horrible things. She wore goggles and like a KN95 mask, which is the Chinese version, not the one here in the States. So she didn't take it from any of our medical professionals. And I guess they don't need them as much in China right now, because if you believe the numbers, the cases are very low. She basically wore a hazmat suit and got made fun of by other people on the plane. But she did it because she was worried her family is of extreme risk. And she traveled fine, by the way. She's been there a while, and no one's gotten sick. Everybody's okay where she is, and she hopes to come back at some point, and knock on wood that that's going to be okay. But she went. And I just think that it's very interesting. And honestly, she has told me a lot of the way that people in her community are handling COVID-19, they're not that concerned. In parts of Mexico, they're not all that worried. She took extreme precautions getting to the country. And then when she got there, her dad was throwing a birthday party for himself that had several people attending it, his 70th birthday, because he said exactly what you might hear from some people. And he's had some health concerns, too, is, I don't know how much longer I have, and I don't want to not celebrate something like my 70th. So they're all doing okay. I'm just trying to let you know. I don't know if that refutes any of the CDC information, but it is out there. They are warning against holiday travel, though, to that country. People couldn't vacuum or use their doorbell the other day because Amazon's cloud service went down. People who have smart items like a smart vacuum couldn't get them to operate. That is hilarious. That, to me, is a very funny idea, is that the doorbell goes down completely. Maybe the light switches aren't working the way they should, all because the cloud service from Amazon wasn't operating correctly. I mean, how do you deal with that? How do you just give up on all the smart technology when your Roomba is no longer operating and it's just kind of going in circles and getting very confused? This is definitely the first world problem right there, but it is amusing to me. All right, I got to take a break. After the break, I want to talk about a math teacher who purposefully leaked a fake set of answers to an exam, which I thought was a tremendously interesting and funny move, just to see who'd cheat. And I wonder if you would have used those answers if you saw them. But he put material for a test up online that he pretended someone had stolen or somehow leaked. And by the way, those answers were all wrong. I'll tell you more about that story and a lot more after this. Craig Collins filling in on the Chad Benson Show.
Irreverent? Yeah. So what? It's the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins. It is Black Friday. I hope you're celebrating it appropriately by spending a lot of money on stuff you don't need. A lot of us might have been doing that all week because, honestly, all these sales have been going on for a while. So I guess the punch of today isn't really what people expect it to be. And places like New York are not seeing a lot of foot traffic. Surprise, surprise, when you think of all the things that have condensed and sort of restricted things like that there. A city in Oklahoma is doing something unique to try to get people into their town in order to maybe spruce up the amount of travel and the amount of tourism that they're in need of, like every place is. Their Festival of Light celebration now features a brand new 40-foot tall leg lamp from A Christmas Story. This is an indescribably beautiful lamp, according to several people. I set my 2-foot leg lamp up on the table, and I said, how about a 150-foot leg lamp at the end of Main Street? That is one of the people that is involved in making this decision to make this thing a reality. They all kind of laughed and thought it was funny, but it was a real idea, and now it has happened. This has got viral photos of it are out there in the world, and this actually is exactly on trend with what I was talking about earlier, that the monolith, the metal monolith that exists out there in the middle of the desert is now attracting tourists. This is all you need. We all got to pick our own unique, crazy item and put it in front of your store, your house, whatever. And if you want to attract people, want to drum up business, you just need a social media experience, and boom, everything's fixed. And by the way, if people do go ahead and visit this leg lamp, or if they do go visit the monolith, I'm sure people won't complain because it'll be a cool social media photo, a cool Instagram photo, so people won't get mad. But if you do anything that at all involves the president, you are probably a horrible person as far as the risks of gathering and having coronavirus wreak havoc on the world just for doing that, or even just going to Thanksgiving apparently is a big deal, but going and seeing the leg lamp, probably not as big of a deal. We'll see. A math professor, I thought this was very interesting, a very cool move in a year in which so many students are learning from home. And honestly, a whole bunch of kids just aren't even doing school. I saw a take in a few different news organizations covering how more and more kids are just really not participating in education this year to the extent that they're supposed to be, if at all. And that is going to be detrimental on a lot of our potential and their potential as far as the future is concerned. I mean, just giving up an education is surreal if that is happening in more and more places. But this math professor wanted to test just how likely kids were to cheat if they're not even really in front of him when taking things like the test. So he leaked answers to an exam, but the answers were all wrong. He wanted to see if the children would decide that it was, better to, or I guess these are kind of a little bit older of kids, decide if it was better to study and know the information or utilize what seemed to be a pretty widely available leaked version of the test. And even though he said the results were not all that surprising, there were kids that actually did do well and, I guess didn't rely on it. But how interesting is that a teacher, to figure out whether or not students are cheating or would cheat in the year that is 2020, in the year in which remote learning is so common, has to leak fake answers to his test in order to see. And he did do it more as a gag. So I don't think that there was really a truthful, trying to catch kids and punish anyone for this. But it is interesting to me that it would be this difficult to monitor something like that you would have to go this kind of road to try to see how likely a student is to not be taking their education seriously because they're at home and they're not in front of you. In other news, the New York City SantaCon has been canceled, and there is a lot of celebration online and a little bit of sadness from those that normally go to it. But if you don't know what SantaCon is, it's a giant pub crawl in which everybody dresses like Santa Claus. It's been going on for years. They attract several of Santa, and this year that will not be happening. Yet another victim of COVID-19 and the coronavirus shutdown, and yet so many people in the city are happy about the fact that they're not going to see a bunch of hammered Santas but truthfully, again, for the year we're all having, maybe that's the kind of release that we needed. Maybe you should all dress as Santa Claus and get drunk. I don't know. We got to figure out some way to get through the end of this year. I also saw this story. I thought it was interesting. This is my rapid fire section of the show before I got to take a break in a bit. An Instagram doctor is getting ridiculed on social media for attending a boat party. He was on a boat party recently and they weren't wearing masks. The guy is celebrating, I think, or at least one of his friends might have been celebrating a 31st birthday. The reason that this matters at all, I guess, to some, and maybe not still to you or me, is the guy is known as the hot doctor on Instagram. He is a Manhattan-based celebrity physician who I guess people think is rather attractive. And just the fact that he's a doctor, he's famous for a stupid reason because the internet is weird. And he was maskless at a party and also, I guess, shirtless, which I don't know if that's something people liked or disliked. I imagine ladies might have liked it a bit. He was named one of the sexiest doctors alive, I guess, a few years ago in People magazine. Ridiculous that that's a thing. But he's getting in a lot of trouble because he was sipping champagne and partying on a boat with other people. And you're not supposed to be doing that, Doc. But come on, does this doctor really feel the same level of ability or the same level of expertise as maybe the ones we all go to for our regular checkups? The hot doctor guy on Instagram is probably not, I don't know, maybe I'm being mean now, probably not the guy I would most trust for information and for medical advice, as seen by the fact that he's out breaking some of the rules. But maybe he'll also be okay. We don't know. It is possible. I saw this story, too, and I kind of want to touch on this, and I have so little time to do it. Fanny packs are back. A new fashion trend is saying that this year, or at least this season, it's going to be acceptable to rock sweatpants and fanny packs. So if you're a person who felt sad that they went away, and most people who wear fanny packs do not care about fashion trends, I'll tell you that. But now you can do it and be cool. Now the kids are going to say that this is, a hot item, if I can say it, because, well, we're all lazy. We all have a lot going on, and we just need to carry around a few more items in the old fanny pack, maybe the hand sanitizer. I don't know. But good news for most, people out there who lived through a time of fanny packs, because they're cool now, and you can rock them without any problem whatsoever. There's also a story about a Milwaukee man who had a had a tire stolen, and someone put a turkey in the spot where they took a tire off of his car. He actually even called the Butterball hotline, I guess, but they can't solve the problem. Apparently the victim was, not thrilled, but at least grateful that something was sent his way. So there you go. In the year 2020, if you're going to take something because you need it, like a tire, at least leave somebody a turkey. That might be a nice move in this year. All right, have a good day. Craig Collins filling in. Quick break. Chad Benson Show.
This is The Chad Benson Show.